You're going to do great, Thomas whispered to her. Just speak from your heart. The ceremony began. Mr. Wallace, the superintendent, spoke first. He talked about the school district's commitment to diversity and inclusion. He admitted that mistakes had been made and promised to do better. Mrs. Kim, the school board president, spoke next. She announced new district-wide policies that were being implemented in all schools, not just Lincoln High. Anonymous reporting systems, mandatory discrimination training, student advisory boards, all based on what had happened to Jiwon. Then Dr. Martinez spoke. She talked about the importance of listening to students. She thanked the teachers who had the courage to speak up, even when it was difficult. She specifically thanked Mr. Chen, Ms. Patel, and Ms. Patterson, who stood when their names were called. And now, Dr. Martinez said, I'd like to introduce the young woman whose courage started all of this. A student who refused to be silenced. A student who documented injustice so it could not be denied. A student who is teaching all of us what it means to stand up for what's right. Please welcome Jiwon Park. Everyone applauded. Jiwon stood up on shaking legs and walked to the podium. The microphone was too high, so Dr. Martinez adjusted it for her. Jiwon looked out at all the faces staring at her. She saw her parents in the front row holding hands and looking at her with so much love. She saw Maya and Carlos sitting together, giving her encouraging smiles. She saw Mr. Chen nodding at her supportively. She took a deep breath and began to speak. 2 months ago, I was on my hands and knees in room 214, scrubbing a floor that I had already scrubbed the day before. I was exhausted. My hands hurt. I felt alone and hopeless. I wondered how much longer I could keep going. The room was completely silent. Everyone was listening. I was being punished for asking a question in class. A good question, a smart question, but it was the wrong kind of question according to my teacher. She didn't want to hear about Asian immigration. She thought I should focus on cleaning instead. She thought that's what my people are good at. Jiwon paused. She could feel emotion rising in her throat, but she pushed it down. I want to tell you what I learned while I was cleaning those classrooms. I learned that shame is a weapon. People use it to control you and silence you. They want you to feel like you deserve the bad treatment you're getting. They want you to believe that speaking up will only make things worse. She looked directly at the students in the audience. But I also learned that you don't have to accept shame. You don't have to carry it. When someone treats you badly because of your race or your background or who you are, that shame belongs to them, not to you. Some students nodded. A few were crying. I learned that documentation matters. I took photographs of my work every single day. I wrote down what happened. I kept records. I didn't know if anyone would ever see them. But when the time came, that evidence made the difference. So if something wrong is happening to you, document it. Write it down. Take pictures. Save messages. Your truth matters. Jiwon looked at her parents now. I learned that you don't have to suffer alone. I tried to handle everything by myself because I was afraid. But when I finally told the truth, people helped me. My best friend stood by me. Teachers spoke up. The mayor listened. My parents loved me through it. You are not alone. You never have to be alone. Her voice grew stronger now. I learned that change is possible. This room where I experienced so much pain is now a place where students can find support. The policies that failed me have been rewritten. The teacher who hurt me can never hurt another student again. One person speaking up really can change things. She looked at Mayor Park, who was smiling proudly at her. Most importantly, I learned that dignity cannot be taken away from you. It can only be given away. Every day I cleaned those classrooms, I made a choice. I chose not to give up. I chose not to surrender my dignity. I chose to believe that I was worth more than how I was being treated. Jiwon's voice became gentler now, almost like she was talking to a friend. If you're going through something difficult right now, I want you to know that you are not alone. Your voice matters. Your experience matters. Your dignity matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She took a breath. This room is being dedicated as the Dignity and Respect Learning Center. I think that's a perfect name. because that's what we all deserve. Dignity, respect. A place where we're seen for who we are, not judged for where we came from. A place where questions are encouraged, not punished. A place where everyone belongs. Ji-won looked around the room one more time. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for changing things. And thank you for making sure that no other student has to go through what I went through. She stepped away from the microphone. For a moment there was silence. Then everyone stood up and applauded. The sound was overwhelming. Ji-won felt tears running down her face, but she was smiling. Her mother rushed to the stage and hugged her tightly, saying things in Korean that Ji-won couldn't quite hear over the applause. Her father joined them, wrapping his strong arms around both of them. They stood there together, a family that had survived something terrible and come out stronger. After the ceremony, many people came to talk to Ji-won. Some thanked her. Some shared their own stories of discrimination. Some asked for advice about how to speak up when something wrong is happening. A young freshman girl with curly hair and dark skin approached Ji-won shyly. "Hi," the girl said quietly. "My name is Amara. I just wanted to say thank you. My teacher has been making comments about my hair and my accent. I was too scared to tell anyone. But after hearing your story, I'm going to report it." Ji-won held Amara's hand. "I'm proud of you. That takes courage. Use the anonymous reporting system, and if you need someone to talk to, I'm here." Amara hugged her. "Thank you." Moments like that made everything worth it. Every difficult moment, every fear overcome. Every time Ji-won had wanted to give up but didn't. It was all worth it if it helped even one other person find their voice. That evening, Ji-won sat at her desk at home. She opened her laptop and checked her email. There was a message from one of the universities that had accepted her. They were offering her an additional scholarship specifically for students who demonstrate commitment to civil rights and social justice. She showed the email to her parents. They cried again. Happy tears, proud tears. "Our daughter," her father said in Korean. "So strong, so brave." Ji-won looked at her hands. They were completely healed now. No more cracks, no more redness, no more pain. These hands had scrubbed floors for 7 weeks. But they had also documented injustice. They had written a powerful essay. They had held the hands of other students who needed support. These were powerful hands. Important hands. Hands that would one day practice law and fight for people's rights in courtrooms. But tonight, these hands held a cup of tea while Ji-won sat with her parents and talked about the future. She still had 1.5 years of high school left. She would continue serving on the student committee. She would attend the monthly meetings of the city's education advisory board. She would speak at other schools about her experience. And she would remember. She would remember what it felt like to be on her hands and knees in room 214. She would remember the fear and the exhaustion and the loneliness. But she would also remember that she survived. She would remember that people helped her. She would remember that change is possible. Ji-won Park had asked a question in history class about immigration. That simple act of curiosity had led to weeks of punishment and pain. But it had also led to this: new policies, protected students, a safer school, a stronger voice. She had learned the most important history lesson of all. History is not just about what happened in the past. History is made by people who refuse to accept injustice. History is made by people who speak up even when they're afraid. History is made by people who believe that change is possible and who work to make it happen. Ji-won Park was making history, and she was just getting started. Outside her window, snow began to fall softly on the city. The lights from other apartments glowed warmly in the winter darkness. Somewhere in this city, other students were struggling with their own challenges. Other families were working hard to build better lives. Other voices were waiting to be heard. Ji-won made a promise to herself. She would keep listening. She would keep speaking up. She would keep fighting. Because that's what dignity looked like. That's what respect looked like. That's what justice looked like. One student, one question, one refusal to give up. That's how everything changed. 2 months had passed since Mayor Park walked into room 214 and found Ji-won cleaning floors. 2 months since everything changed. Lincoln High School looked the same from the outside. Same old brick building, same flag flying in front, same yellow buses dropping off students in the morning. But inside everything was different. Ji-won walked through the main entrance on a Monday morning in January. The hallways were decorated with new posters. Some showed information about the anonymous reporting system. Others celebrated diversity and inclusion. One large poster near the principal's office showed students of different backgrounds working together. The words at the top said, "Every voice matters at Lincoln High." Ji-won stopped to look at that poster. She felt proud. She had helped create this change. Ji-won, "Wait up," Maya called from behind her. She ran to catch up, her backpack bouncing. "Did you hear the news?" "What news?" Ms. Henderson's case was finalized. She lost her teaching license. Permanently. She can never teach in any school again. Ji-won felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, satisfaction, but also sadness. It did not feel good to know that someone's career was destroyed, even if that person had hurt her badly. The investigation found 6 other students she had discriminated against. Maya continued as they walked to their lockers. "Some of them came forward after they heard about your case. You gave them courage to speak up." Ji-won had met 3 of those students. They had shared their stories with her. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. Ms. Henderson targeted students of color. She gave them harsher punishments. She made cruel comments about their backgrounds. She made them feel small. Now those students were healing, and so was Ji-won. "How are your hands?" Maya asked, looking at Ji-won's hands carefully. Ji-won held them up. The skin was much better now. Her mother had been putting special cream on them every night. The cracks had healed. The redness had faded. They looked like normal teenage hands again. "Much better," Ji-won said. "Almost back to normal." The first bell rang. Students hurried to their classes. Ji-won and Maya walked together to English class. As they entered the room, several students smiled at Ji-won. One boy gave her a thumbs up. A girl said, "Thank you for what you did." Ji-won still felt uncomfortable with the attention. She did not feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had simply told the truth when it mattered. Ms. Ellis, the English teacher, smiled at Ji-won warmly. "Good morning, Ji-won. I read your college essay. It's remarkable. Truly one of the best pieces of writing I've seen from a student." "Thank you, Ms. Ellis," Ji-won said, taking her seat. The essay had been finished and submitted to 5 universities. Ji-won had written about her experience honestly and powerfully. She had described the shame, the fear, the exhaustion, but she had also written about resilience, documentation, and hope. She had written about how one person noticing can change everything. 3 universities had already sent her early acceptance letters. All 3 offered full scholarships. Her parents cried when they opened the first acceptance letter. They held Ji-won and told her in Korean how proud they were. Her father said, "This is why we came to America. For this moment." During lunch, Carlos found Ji-won in the cafeteria. He was carrying a copy of the school newspaper. "It's published," he said, handing her the paper. Front page. Ji-won looked at the headline. "Student Speaks Up. How One Girl's Courage Changed Lincoln High." The article told her story. But it also told the bigger story. It talked about the new policies that had been implemented, the mandatory reporting system, the cultural sensitivity training that all teachers were now required to complete, the student diversity committee that was being formed. Carlos had interviewed Dr. Martinez, who admitted that the school had failed its students for years. He had interviewed Mr. Chen, Ms. Patel, and Ms. Patterson, who talked about the importance of teachers speaking up when they witness injustice. He had interviewed 5 other students who shared their own experiences with discrimination. The article ended with a quote from Ji-won. "Change happens when people stop accepting things as they are and start demanding things as they should be. It takes courage to speak up, but silence only protects the people doing harm." "This is really good, Carlos," Ji-won said. She felt emotional reading it. "Thank you for telling the story right." "Thank you for trusting me with it," Carlos said. That article was photocopied and shared throughout the school. Teachers used it in their classes to start discussions about discrimination and speaking up. Parents read it at home and talk to their children about standing up for what's right. The local newspaper picked up the story and published their own article. Ji-won's story was spreading beyond Lincoln High School. After school, Ji-won did not have to clean any classrooms. Instead, she went to the library for a meeting. Dr. Martinez had formed a student-teacher committee to review all school policies related to discipline and discrimination. Ji-won was the student chair of the committee. 10 people sat around the table. 5 students, 5 teachers. They met every week to discuss ways to make the school better and safer for everyone. Today, they were reviewing the proposed anonymous reporting system. Students and teachers could report incidents of discrimination through a secure online form. Reports would go directly to the Civil Rights Office, not to the school administration. This way, there would be no cover-ups, no incidents handled informally and forgotten. "I think we should also have a physical drop box," said Maria, a senior student on the committee. "Some students don't have reliable internet access at home. They should be able to write reports on paper and drop them in a secure box." "That's a good idea," Mr. Chen said. He was one of the teacher representatives. "We could put the box in the library where Ms. Rodriguez could monitor it." They discussed the idea for 20 minutes and decided to implement it. It was added to the growing list of policy changes. Ji-won looked around the table. This was real change happening. These were real policies that would protect real students. She felt proud to be part of it. The meeting ended at 5 o'clock. Ji-won packed up her notes and said goodbye to everyone. As she walked out of the school, she saw something that made her stop. Room 214. The door was open. She could see inside. Ji-won had not been in that room since the day Mayor Park found her. She had avoided it deliberately. It held too many painful memories. The sticky floor, the overturned desks, the endless hours of scrubbing, but now she felt drawn to it. She walked to the doorway and looked inside. The room looked completely different. It had been repainted. There were new posters on the walls celebrating different cultures and languages. The desks were arranged in a circle instead of rows. At the front of the room was a new sign, the Dignity and Respect Learning Center. Ji-won walked inside slowly. She ran her hand along one of the desks. She remembered wiping this desk. She remembered how her arms hurt. She remembered the smell of the cleaning chemicals. But now the room felt different. It felt safe. It felt hopeful. "Ji-won," a voice said from the doorway. She turned. It was Dr. Martinez. "I didn't expect to see you here," Dr. Martinez said gently. She walked into the room. "I should have told you about the changes we made to this room. I'm sorry you found out this way." "What is the Dignity and Respect Learning Center?" Ji-won asked. "It's a safe space," Dr. Martinez explained. "Students can come here if they've experienced discrimination, or if they just need a quiet place to talk. We've trained 3 counselors who will be available here during school hours. We also use this room for peer mediation and conflict resolution." Ji-won looked around the room again. This place that had caused her so much pain was now a place of healing for others. "We're having a dedication ceremony next week," Dr. Martinez said. "The superintendent will be there. The school board. Local news. We'd like you to speak if you're willing." "Speak about what?" "About your experience. About resilience. About hope. About how we can turn painful places into places of healing." Ji-won thought about it, standing in front of everyone and talking about the worst thing that had ever happened to her. It sounded terrifying, but it also sounded important. "I'll do it," Ji-won said. Dr. Martinez smiled. "Thank you. Your voice is powerful, Ji-won. People need to hear it." The following week, on a cold January afternoon, more than 200 people gathered in the Lincoln High Gymnasium for the dedication ceremony. Students sat in folding chairs. Teachers stood along the walls. Parents filled the back section. At the front, there was a small stage with a podium and microphone. Ji-won sat in the front row with her parents. She wore a nice dress her mother had bought for the occasion. Her hands were folded in her lap and she was trying not to be nervous. Mayor Thomas Park sat next to her. He had become something like a mentor to Ji-won over the past 2 months. They met for coffee once a week to talk about education policy and civil rights. He was teaching her how to turn pain into purpose. 2 days later, Ji-won sat in the same conference room at Lincoln High School. But this time felt different. This time she was not afraid. Mayor Park sat beside her. Her parents sat on her other side. Across the table were Dr. Martinez, Mr. Wallace, Mrs. Kim, and a woman Ji-won had not met before. The woman introduced herself as Ms. Chen from the district's Civil Rights Office. "Thank you all for coming," Ms. Chen said. She had a folder thick with papers in front of her. We've completed our preliminary investigation into what happened to Jiwon. I want to share our findings with the family. Jiwon held her mother's hand under the table. Her mother's grip was tight and warm. Over the past 2 days, we interviewed 32 people, Ms. Chen continued. Students, teachers, staff members. What we found was deeply troubling. She opened the folder and pulled out several pages. Ms. Henderson has a history of discriminatory behavior. This was not an isolated incident with Jiwon. We found evidence of similar treatment toward other students of color over the past 5 years. 5 years? Mr. Park said in Korean. Thomas translated for him. This woman has been doing this for 5 years and nobody stopped her. I'm ashamed to say that's correct, Dr. Martinez said. She looked like she had not slept well in days. Other students reported incidents, but they were handled individually and informally. Nobody connected the pattern. Nobody realized this was systemic behavior. Ms. Chen continued. We found that Ms. Henderson made inappropriate comments to an Indian student about curry smell. She told a black student that he should be grateful to be in America instead of Africa. She told a Mexican student that she should focus on learning English before participating in class discussions. Each example made Jiwon feel sick. She was not the only one. Ms. Henderson had been hurting students for years. Why did nobody stop her? Jiwon's mother asked through Thomas's translation. Fear, Ms. Chen said simply. Some students were afraid to report. Some teachers witnessed incidents but did not want to get involved. Some reports were made but not taken seriously enough. The system failed. What about the detention records? Thomas asked. Were there other students forced to do excessive manual labor? Yes, Ms. Chen said. We found 3 other cases in the past 2 years where students of color received unusually long detention assignments involving cleaning or other physical labor. White students who committed similar or worse infractions received standard detention, sitting quietly in a supervised room. The anger in the room was heavy. Jiwon could feel it pressing down on everyone. We also investigated the condition of room 214, Ms. Chen continued. Multiple witnesses confirmed that it was repeatedly vandalized after Jiwon cleaned it. We cannot prove who did it, but Ms. Henderson had access to the room and was seen entering it after hours on several occasions. So she was sabotaging Jiwon's work on purpose, Thomas said. It was not a question. That is our belief, yes, Mr. Park said something harsh in Korean. Thomas did not translate it, but everyone understood the sentiment. What happens to Ms. Henderson now? Jiwon asked. Mr. Wallace answered. The investigation will continue for another week. But based on what we've already found, I will be recommending termination to the school board. She will not be returning to this or any other school in our district. Can she just get a job somewhere else? Jiwon asked. Can she go to another city and do this to other students? Her teaching license will be reviewed by the state board, Mrs. Kim said. We will be submitting a formal complaint. It's likely she will lose her license permanently. Jiwon nodded. She felt relieved, but she also felt sad. How many students had been hurt over the years? How many stayed silent like she almost did? Now I want to talk about you, Jiwon, Ms. Chen said. Her voice became gentler. You showed remarkable courage in documenting everything that happened to you. Your photographs and notes made our investigation much easier. Without that evidence, this case would have been much harder to prove. I didn't know if anyone would ever see them, Jiwon admitted. I just felt like I needed to keep records. That instinct saved you, Thomas said. And it will help us make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. Jiwon, I want to personally apologize to you. As principal, it was my responsibility to know what was happening in my school. I should have noticed that a straight-A student was suddenly exhausted all the time. I should have questioned why you were cleaning classrooms for weeks. I failed you. Jiwon did not know what to say. She appreciated the apology, but it did not erase what happened. I also want to make some promises to you, Dr. Martinez continued. First, your academic record will be completely restored. Any grades that suffered because of this situation will be reviewed. If any teacher is willing to let you redo assignments or tests, you'll have that opportunity. My chemistry test, Jiwon said quietly. I fell asleep during it because I was so tired. I got a C. I'll speak with your chemistry teacher today, Dr. Martinez said. I'm sure we can arrange for you to retake it. Second, Dr. Martinez said, you will never be in Ms. Henderson's class again, obviously. We'll arrange for you to complete your History credits through an independent study program with Mr. Chen. He's already volunteered to be your advisor. Ji-won felt tears in her eyes. Mr. Chen was the teacher who left her water bottles. He was kind. She would be safe with him. Third, I want to implement the policy changes you suggested, Dr. Martinez said. Mandatory reporting of discrimination, an anonymous reporting system, cultural sensitivity training. I'm forming a committee to develop these policies, and I want you to be on it if you're willing. I'll do it, Ji-won said immediately. Thomas spoke up. I also want to follow through on my offer. The Student Advisory Board for Education Reform. We'll meet once a month at City Hall. Your voice will help shape policy for all schools in the city, not just Lincoln High. Ji-won looked at her parents. Her father smiled at her with pride in his eyes. Her mother was crying, but they were happy tears now. I want to do both, Ji-won said. The school committee and the city advisory board. I want to help change things. You already have changed things, Mrs. Kim said. She smiled at Ji-won warmly. You changed things the moment you refused to give up. You changed things by documenting the truth. You changed things by being brave enough to tell your story. The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed details, timelines, next steps. Ms. Chen explained that Ji-won and her family had the right to file a formal civil rights complaint with the state if they wanted to. They could also pursue legal action against the school district. Mr. and Mrs. Park spoke to each other in Korean for a few minutes. Then Mr. Park spoke and Thomas translated. We don't want money, Mr. Park said. We want justice. We want the system to change so this doesn't happen to other families. If filing complaints helps with that, we'll do it. I think it would help, Ms. Chen said. It creates an official record. It puts pressure on the system to take these issues seriously. Then we'll do it, Mrs. Park said through Thomas. Before they left, Ms. Chen gave Ji-won her business card. If you remember anything else or if you want to talk about what happened, you can call me anytime. What you went through was traumatic. It's okay if you need support. Ji-won took the card. She had not really thought about it as trauma. She had just thought about it as something she needed to survive. But now that it was over, she was starting to feel all the emotions she had pushed down for 7 weeks. As they walked out of the school, Ji-won noticed something. Students were staring at her. Word had spread about what happened. Everyone knew now. Some students looked at her with respect. Some looked sympathetic. A few looked away, embarrassed that they had not helped her when they could have. Maya ran up to them in the parking lot. She hugged Ji-won tightly. I heard, Maya said. I heard everything. Miss Henderson is gone. Everyone's talking about it. Good, Ji-won said. People should talk about it. You're like a hero now, Maya said. Carlos wants to write an article about you for the school newspaper. And some kids are organizing a protest about discrimination in schools. Ji-won felt overwhelmed. She had just wanted to survive. She had not meant to start a movement. Is that okay? Maya asked, seeing Ji-won's expression. Do you want people talking about this? Ji-won thought about it. Then she nodded. Yes, if my story helps other students speak up, then yes. People should talk about it. That evening, Ji-won sat at the dinner table with her parents. Her mother had made all of Ji-won's favorite foods. Kimchi jjigae, bulgogi, japchae. The table was covered with dishes. You didn't have to make so much, Mom, Ji-won said. I wanted to, her mother said in Korean. We're celebrating. Our daughter is strong. She survived something terrible and she's making it better for others. Her father raised his glass of water. To Ji-won, we are so proud of you. They clinked glasses. Ji-won felt warmth spread through her chest. For 7 weeks she had felt so alone. But she was not alone. She had never been alone. She had parents who loved her. She had friends who supported her. She had teachers who cared. She had a mayor who saw injustice and fought against it. After dinner, Ji-won went to her room. She opened her laptop and looked at her college application essays. She had written a generic essay about overcoming challenges through hard work. It was fine, but it was not special. Miss Henderson stared at Mayor Park. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She looked like someone had thrown cold water on her face. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said, but her voice was shaking. Let me be more clear, Thomas said. He kept his voice calm and steady. Did you or did you not tell Ji-won Park that she should focus on cleaning desks instead of answering questions? Because that's what her people are good at. Dr. Martinez gasped. She put her hand over her mouth and stared at Ms. Henderson with horror. "That's taken out of context," Ms. Henderson said quickly. "I was trying to maintain classroom discipline. The girl was being disruptive and—" "Answer the question," Thomas interrupted. "Did you say those words to her? Yes or no?" Ms. Henderson looked trapped. She knew that lying to the mayor would only make things worse, but admitting the truth would destroy her. "There was a conversation," she said carefully, "about appropriate classroom behavior. I may have made a comment about different types of work. Did you tell a Korean student that her people are good at cleaning?" Thomas asked again. His voice was harder now. "Yes or no, Ms. Henderson?" Silence filled the office. Dr. Martinez was staring at Ms. Henderson, waiting for an answer. Ms. Henderson looked at the floor. "I was trying to teach her about respect," Ms. Henderson said quietly. It was not an answer to the question, but it was an admission. "By making a racist comment?" Thomas asked. "By assigning her 7 weeks of manual labor? By deliberately sabotaging her work so you could extend her punishment?" "I didn't sabotage anything," Ms. Henderson said, but she sounded less confident now. "Room 214 was cleaned perfectly multiple times," Thomas said, "and yet it kept appearing dirty again." "Explain that." Ms. Henderson had no explanation. She just sat there looking like she wanted to disappear. Dr. Martinez found her voice. "Ms. Henderson, is this true? Did you make a racist comment to Jiwon Park?" "I was maintaining discipline," Ms. Henderson repeated. But even she seemed to know how weak that sounded. "Where is the incident report?" Dr. Martinez asked. She was looking through papers on her desk. "There should be documentation. A written report explaining what happened and why detention was assigned." "Where is it?" Ms. Henderson did not answer. "There is no incident report, is there?" Thomas said. "Because this was not about discipline. This was about punishing a student for her ethnicity." "That's not true," Ms. Henderson said, but there was no strength in her voice anymore. Dr. Martinez picked up her phone. "I need to see any written documentation related to Jiwon Park's detention. Check Ms. Henderson's files. Check the discipline office. I want everything on my desk in 5 minutes." She hung up and looked at Ms. Henderson with cold eyes. "In my 20 years as an educator, I have never been so ashamed." "How could you do this to a student?" Ms. Henderson stood up suddenly. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I've been a teacher at this school for 25 years. I have rights. I'm calling my union representative." "Sit down," Dr. Martinez said sharply. "You're not going anywhere until we get to the bottom of this." Ms. Henderson sat back down, but she crossed her arms and refused to look at anyone. The secretary entered with a folder. "This is everything we have, Dr. Martinez. It's not much." Dr. Martinez opened the folder. Inside was just one piece of paper. The original detention slip that Ms. Henderson had written. It said a student disrupted class. 2 weeks detention. Cleaning assignments, that was all. No details. No witness statements. No explanation of what the disruption actually was. Nothing. "This is completely inadequate," Dr. Martinez said. She looked at Ms. Henderson. "Our school policy requires detailed documentation for any detention longer than 1 day. Why is there nothing here?" Ms. Henderson said nothing. Thomas spoke up. "I'd like to request that you contact other teachers. Ask them what they've observed over the past 7 weeks. I have a feeling they've seen things they were afraid to report." Dr. Martinez nodded. She picked up her phone again and made several calls. She asked teachers to come to her office if they had any information about Jiwon Park's detention situation. Within 10 minutes, 3 teachers were standing in the office: Mr. Chen, Ms. Patel, and Ms. Patterson. They all looked nervous, but they also looked determined. "Tell us what you know," Dr. Martinez said. Mr. Chen spoke first. "I've seen Jiwon cleaning classrooms every day for weeks. She always looked exhausted. I tried to ask her about it once, but she said she was fine. I left her water bottles to help her. But I should have done more. I should have reported it. I'm sorry." Ms. Patel was younger than the other teachers. She looked like she might cry. "I was there when it happened. In Ms. Henderson's classroom. I heard everything. What did you hear?" Thomas asked gently. Ms. Patel took a deep breath. Jiwon asked a question about Asian immigration during the lesson on Ellis Island. It was a good question. A smart question. But Ms. Henderson got angry. She said that maybe Jiwon should focus on cleaning desks instead of answering questions. She said that's what her people are good at. Dr. Martinez closed her eyes like she was in pain. "And you didn't report this?" I wanted to, Ms. Patel said. Tears were running down her face now. But I'm untenured. I was afraid I would lose my job. I was a coward. I'm so sorry. You're not a coward for being afraid, Thomas said kindly. But I'm glad you're speaking up now. Ms. Patterson spoke next. I'm the teacher for room 214, that's my classroom. Jiwon cleaned it every few days, and every time I noticed that it would be messy again the next morning. Papers on the floor, trash scattered around. It didn't make sense because my classes never left the room that messy. Someone was doing it on purpose. Do you know who? Dr. Martinez asked. I suspected Ms. Henderson, Ms. Patterson said quietly, but I had no proof. Thomas looked at Dr. Martinez. I think we need to call the superintendent and the school board president. This is bigger than just a school issue now. Dr. Martinez agreed. She made the phone calls. Within an hour, 2 more people arrived at the school. Mr. Wallace, the district superintendent, and Mrs. Kim, the school board president. They both looked serious and concerned. Thomas explained everything again. He showed them Jiwon's student file. He described what he had witnessed. The 3 teachers repeated their statements. Ms. Henderson sat silently through all of it, her face like stone. This is a major violation of our discrimination policies, Mr. Wallace said. He looked at Ms. Henderson with disgust. You're suspended immediately pending a full investigation. You can't do that, Ms. Henderson said. She stood up again. I have tenure. I have rights. You need to follow proper procedures. We are following procedures, Mrs. Kim said. She was a small Korean woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. And those procedures allow for immediate suspension when there is evidence of discrimination or abuse. You'll receive full pay during the suspension, but you will not step foot in this school until the investigation is complete. Ms. Henderson looked like she wanted to argue more, but she seemed to realize that she had lost. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. Wait, Thomas said. Ms. Henderson stopped. Give Dr. Martinez your keys and your ID badge. Ms. Henderson's hand shook as she removed her school keys from her keychain. She took off her ID badge. She placed both items on Dr. Martinez's desk. Then she walked out without another word. The door closed behind her. Everyone in the room seemed to exhale at the same time. We need to contact Jiwon and her parents immediately, Mrs. Kim said. They need to know what's happening. I'll call them, Dr. Martinez said. She looked exhausted and upset. But I should tell you all something. I had no idea this was happening in my school. I failed this student. I should have been more aware. I should have noticed. Systems fail when good people are too afraid to speak up, Thomas said. He looked at Ms. Patel kindly. That's why we need to create better systems. Systems where teachers feel safe reporting problems, where students feel safe asking for help. We'll work on that, Mr. Wallace said. But first we need to make this right for Jiwon. Dr. Martinez called Jiwon's home number. The phone rang 4 times before someone answered. It was Jiwon's mother. Dr. Martinez explained in simple English that there was an important meeting about Jiwon and asked if the parents could come to the school. Mrs. Park sounded frightened on the phone. She asked if Jiwon was in trouble. Dr. Martinez assured her that Jiwon had done nothing wrong, but she needed to discuss something important with the family. 45 minutes later, Jiwon arrived with both of her parents. They looked terrified. Mr. Park wore his delivery uniform. Mrs. Park wore the simple dress she wore to her cleaning jobs. They held hands tightly as they walked into the conference room. Jiwon looked shocked to see so many people waiting for them. Mayor Park was there. The principal, the superintendent, the school board president, several teachers. Everyone looked very serious. Please sit down, Dr. Martinez said gently. The Park family sat together on one side of the long table. Everyone else sat on the other side. Mayor Thomas Park smiled at them reassuringly. Mrs. Park, Mr. Park, do you speak English? Thomas asked gently. Little bit, Mr. Park said. His accent was strong. Would you like me to translate? I speak Korean. The relief on their faces was immediate. Yes, please, Mrs. Park said in Korean. Thank you. Thomas Park stood in front of Lincoln High School and looked up at the old brick building. He had been the mayor of the city for only 3 months. Every day felt like a new challenge. Today's challenge was understanding the real state of the city's schools. His assistant had scheduled official tours of 5 schools this month. But Thomas did not trust official tours. Principals always showed visitors the best classrooms, the newest equipment, the happiest teachers. They did not show the problems, and Thomas wanted to see the problems. That was why he had come to Lincoln High without telling anyone. Well, that was not completely true. He had told Dr. Martinez, the principal, that he was coming, but he had asked her not to prepare anything special. He wanted to see the school as it really was on a normal day. Thomas was 52 years old. His parents had come to America from Korea when he was just a baby. They had worked in a grocery store for 30 years, saving every penny so Thomas could go to college. He became a lawyer. Then he became a civil rights activist. And now he was the mayor, but he never forgot where he came from. He walked through the main doors of the school. A security guard checked his identification and gave him a visitor badge. Dr. Martinez met him in the lobby. She was a tall woman with curly hair and a warm smile. "Mayor Park, welcome to Lincoln High," she said. She shook his hand enthusiastically. "I'm so honored that you're here. I've prepared a wonderful tour for you. We'll start with our new computer lab, then visit our award-winning choir program and—" "Actually," Thomas interrupted gently, "I was hoping to just walk around on my own for a while. I want to get a feel for the school without any official presentation. Is that okay?" Dr. Martinez looked surprised, and maybe a little nervous, but she nodded. "Of course. Whatever you prefer, Mayor Park. Should I accompany you?" "No, thank you. I'll be fine on my own. I'll find you before I leave." Thomas could tell Dr. Martinez was not comfortable with this plan, but she could not really say no to the mayor. So she smiled again and told him to let her know if he needed anything. Thomas walked through the hallways. It was the middle of the school day. Students were in classes, so the halls were mostly empty. He peeked into a few classrooms through the small windows in the doors. He saw teachers lecturing, students taking notes, some students looking bored, some students looking engaged. It all looked normal, maybe too normal. Thomas had learned in his years as a civil rights lawyer that real problems were often hidden. They happened in the spaces between the official story and the real story. They happened when nobody important was watching. He decided to come back later after school ended. Thomas left the building and went to a coffee shop nearby. He sat there for 2 hours working on his laptop and answering emails. At 3:30, he walked back to Lincoln High School. The security guard recognized him from earlier and waved him through. Thomas walked up to the second floor. Most of the students had left already. The building was quiet now. He could hear his own footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. He walked past closed classroom doors. He looked at student artwork on the walls. He read announcements on bulletin boards. Everything looked fine, then he heard a sound. It was the sound of scrubbing. Soft but steady, coming from one of the classrooms down the hall. Thomas walked toward the sound. The door to room 214 was open. He looked inside. A young girl was on her hands and knees on the floor. She was scrubbing hard at what looked like a sticky stain. Her school uniform was dirty. Her hair was falling out of her ponytail. She looked exhausted. Thomas knocked gently on the open door. The girl jumped like she had been shocked. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. Then she quickly stood up and tried to smooth down her uniform. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I didn't hear you come in." "That's okay," Thomas said kindly. He looked at her carefully. She was so young, maybe 15 or 16 years old. "Are you part of the custodial staff here?" The girl looked confused for a moment. Then she seemed to understand what he was asking. "No, sir. I'm a student. This is my detention." Thomas felt something cold settle in his stomach. Detention? This girl was serving detention by cleaning classrooms on her hands and knees. "What's your name?" he asked. "Jiwon Park," she said quietly. Park, the same last name as him. Thomas felt an immediate connection to this girl, even though they were not related. "What did you do to get detention?" he asked. Jiwon looked down at the floor. She seemed to be choosing her words carefully. "I disrupted class," she said. It sounded like she was reciting something she had been told to say. "And the punishment for disrupting class is to clean classrooms?" "Yes, sir." "How long have you been doing this?" Jiwon hesitated. "A while." Thomas noticed her phone propped up on one of the desks. The camera was pointing at the floor. He could see it was taking a picture or a video. "What's the phone for?" he asked. Jiwon looked embarrassed. She walked over and picked up the phone. "I take pictures of the rooms after I clean them. To prove I did it right." Why do you need to prove that? Ji-won did not answer right away. She looked like she was deciding whether to trust him or not. Thomas waited patiently. He had interviewed enough people in his career to know that silence was often the best way to get someone to talk. Finally, Ji-won spoke. Sometimes my work gets inspected. If it's not perfect, I have to do it again, so I take pictures to show that I cleaned everything properly. Something about this whole situation felt very wrong to Thomas. He had been a civil rights lawyer for 20 years before becoming mayor. He had seen discrimination take many forms. And right now, his instincts were telling him that something discriminatory was happening to this young girl. Can I see the pictures? He asked gently. Ji-won looked uncertain, but something in Thomas's kind expression made her feel like she could trust him. She unlocked her phone and handed it to him. Thomas scrolled through the photos. There were hundreds of them. Pictures of clean classrooms, timestamps and dates. He saw that she had been taking these photos for weeks. He saw the same rooms cleaned over and over again. He saw one particular room that appeared in the photos more than any other. This is a lot of documentation, Thomas said carefully. How long has your detention been going on? It was supposed to be 2 weeks, Ji-won said. Her voice was very quiet now. But it keeps getting extended. It's been almost 7 weeks, 7 weeks. This girl had been cleaning classrooms for 7 weeks. Thomas felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his expression calm. And which teacher assigned you this detention? Ms. Henderson. Thomas made a mental note of that name. Thank you for showing me this, Ji-won. Can I ask you one more question? Ji-won nodded. What did you really do to get this detention? I don't believe you disrupted class. Ji-won looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes started to fill with tears, but she blinked them away. Thomas could see that she was trying to decide whether to tell him the truth. I asked a question in history class, she finally said, about immigration from Asia. Ms. Henderson said maybe I should focus on cleaning desks instead of answering questions. She said that's what my people are good at. There it was. The truth. Thomas felt his hands clench into fists. He knew exactly what had happened here. This was not about classroom disruption. This was about a racist teacher punishing a student for being Korean, his people. Our people. Thomas had heard those words before. He had heard them directed at him. He had heard them directed at his parents. He knew exactly what those words meant and what they did to a person. And then she gave you detention? Thomas asked, keeping his voice steady. Yes, for 2 weeks, but it keeps getting longer. Every time she inspects my work, she finds something wrong. Even when I know I cleaned it right. Sometimes I clean a room perfectly, and the next day it's messy again, like someone made it dirty on purpose. Ji-won stopped talking. She looked scared, like she had said too much. Thank you for telling me the truth, Thomas said. I know that took courage. Please don't tell anyone, Ji-won said urgently. Please. Ms. Henderson is on the scholarship committee. I need her recommendation for college. If she finds out I complained, she'll... You don't need to worry about that, Thomas said firmly. He looked directly into her eyes. I'm going to make sure this is handled properly. And I'm going to make sure you're protected. Who are you? Ji-won asked. She suddenly realized she had been talking to this man for several minutes and she did not even know who he was. Thomas smiled for the first time since entering the classroom. My name is Thomas Park. I'm the mayor of this city. Ji-won's eyes went very wide. Her face turned pale. She looked like she might faint. You're the mayor? She whispered. Yes. And I came here today because I want to make sure our schools are treating all students fairly. It seems I came at the right time. Ji-won did not know what to say. She just stood there holding her cleaning rag, looking shocked. Keep documenting your work just like you've been doing, Thomas said. Those photos are important. Don't delete any of them, and don't clean any more classrooms today. Go home and rest. Someone will contact you very soon. But Ms. Henderson won't do anything, Thomas said. His voice was kind but firm. I promise you that. Go home, Ji-won. The 3rd week became the 4th week. The 4th week became the 5th. Ji-won stopped counting days. She just cleaned. Every afternoon, the same routine. Get the supplies. Clean the rooms. Take pictures. Go home late. Do homework. Sleep for a few hours. Wake up and do it all again. Ms. Henderson started visiting Ji-won while she cleaned. She would appear in doorways without warning. She would walk around the classroom inspecting everything with her sharp eyes. She was looking for mistakes, and she always found them. This desk has a streak, Ms. Henderson would say. running her finger across a surface that looked perfectly clean to Ji-won. "Clean it again." "You missed a spot on the floor in the corner," Ms. Henderson would point out. "Do the whole room again tomorrow." "The whiteboard still has marks on it," Ms. Henderson would complain, even though Ji-won had scrubbed it 3 times already. Unacceptable. Every time Ms. Henderson found a problem, she added another day to Ji-won's punishment. The 2 weeks had now stretched into 6 weeks. Ji-won had been cleaning classrooms for a month and a half. She felt like she was trapped in a nightmare that would never end. Her hands were no longer just red. They were cracked and painful. The skin around her fingernails was dry and sometimes bled a little. She started wearing 2 pairs of gloves while cleaning, but it did not help much. At night, her mother noticed and tried to put cream on Ji-won's hands. Ji-won said it was from volleyball practice. Another lie. Her father asked why she was coming home so late every day. Ji-won said her study group was preparing for college entrance exams. He seemed proud of her dedication. The lie made her feel sick, but what choice did she have? If she told her parents the truth, they would go to the school. They would make a big scene. They might even hire a lawyer. And then what? Ms. Henderson would be even angrier. The school might side with the teacher. Ji-won's parents might be labeled as troublemakers. There were so many ways this could go wrong. So Ji-won kept the secret. And she kept cleaning. At school, some of the other students started to notice the pattern. They saw Ms. Henderson checking on Ji-won. They saw Ji-won cleaning the same rooms over and over. A few of them took out their phones and recorded videos. Carlos Rivera was the student council president. He was popular and smart and everyone liked him. He saw one of the videos that another student had taken. It showed Ms. Henderson yelling at Ji-won because a windowsill was not clean enough. In the video, Ji-won looked so small and tired. Ms. Henderson looked mean and satisfied. Carlos showed the video to Maya in the cafeteria one day. "How long has this been going on?" Carlos asked. 6 weeks, Maya said bitterly. "Almost 7 now." "This is abuse," Carlos said. "We need to do something." Ji-won doesn't want anyone to know, Maya explained. She's afraid of what will happen if she complains. Ms. Henderson is on the scholarship committee. "Then we need to find another way to help her," Carlos said. A group of students started meeting in secret. There was Carlos, Maya, and 4 other students who had witnessed Ms. Henderson's cruelty. They all wanted to help Ji-won, but they did not want to make things worse for her. "We could make an anonymous complaint to the principal," one student suggested. "The principal will ask Ms. Henderson about it, and Ms. Henderson will know it's about Ji-won," another student said. "Then she'll punish Ji-won even more." "We could post the videos online," someone else said. "That could backfire," Maya warned. "It might embarrass Ji-won. And what if the school retaliates against her?" They talked in circles for days. They wanted to help, but every idea seemed risky. Meanwhile, Ji-won continued to suffer alone. Well, not completely alone. Ji-won did not know it, but she was developing a quiet support system. Mr. Chen started leaving bottles of water in his classroom before Ji-won arrived to clean it. He never said anything about it, but Ji-won always found them. She was grateful. Ms. Patterson, the English teacher, started making sure her room 214 was already clean before Ji-won got there. This saved Ji-won time, even though someone kept messing it up again later. Ms. Patterson never spoke to Ji-won about it, but her kindness was clear. Even Mr. Lopez, the janitor, helped in his own way. He saw what Ji-won was doing and felt bad for her. He started leaving the best cleaning supplies where Ji-won could find them. The good mop, the spray that worked better, small things that made the work a little easier. But these small kindnesses could not fix the real problem. One afternoon in the 6th week, Ji-won was cleaning room 214 again. This room had become her enemy. No matter how well she cleaned it, it was always dirty the next day. She knew someone was doing this on purpose. She was almost certain it was Ms. Henderson herself. Ji-won was on her hands and knees scrubbing dried mud off the floor when she heard voices outside the classroom. She stayed very still and listened. It was Ms. Henderson talking to another teacher in the hallway. "I don't know how much longer you're going to keep doing this," the other teacher said. Ji-won recognized the voice. It was Mr. Briggs, the social studies teacher. He was friends with Ms. Henderson. "As long as it takes," Ms. Henderson replied. Her voice was cold and pleased. "That arrogant little immigrant needs to learn her place. But 6 weeks of detention? Isn't that a bit much?" Ms. Henderson laughed. It was not a nice laugh. She thought she was so smart asking questions in my class. Showing off. These kids come to our country and think they can just do whatever they want. Well, not in my classroom. Ji-won felt like her heart stopped beating. She was hearing Ms. Henderson admit everything. The punishment was not about disrupting class. It was not about being disrespectful. It was about racism. It was about Ms. Henderson not liking that Ji-won was Korean. It was about putting Ji-won in her place. I still think you should be careful, Mr. Briggs said. His voice sounded uncertain. If she complains to the principal, she won't, Ms. Henderson said confidently. She's too afraid. She wants to go to college. She needs me to write her a good recommendation letter. She won't risk making me angry. They walked away, still talking. Ji-won stayed on the floor, frozen. She felt hot tears running down her face. She had known the punishment was unfair. But hearing Ms. Henderson say those things out loud made it real in a new and terrible way. Finally putting that arrogant immigrant girl in her place. Those words echoed in Ji-won's head. She finished cleaning the room through her tears. She took pictures like she did every day. The timestamp on her phone read 4:35 p.m. The date was November 20th. She had been doing this for 6 weeks and 3 days. When she got home that night, Ji-won went straight to her room. She did not eat dinner. She told her parents she felt sick. That was not really a lie. She did feel sick. Sick of cleaning, sick of lying, sick of being treated like she was worth nothing. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about quitting. She could just stop showing up to detention. What would Ms. Henderson do? Give her more detention? At some point, this had to end. But Ji-won knew it would not be that simple. Ms. Henderson would report her for skipping detention. There would be consequences. Maybe suspension. Maybe a note in her permanent record. Colleges would see it. They would ask questions. Everything Ji-won had worked for could be destroyed, so she could not quit. She had to keep going, but how much longer could she survive this? The next day at school, Ji-won felt like a ghost walking through the halls. She went to her classes but barely heard what the teachers were saying. During lunch, Maya sat next to her and tried to get her to eat something. Ji-won pushed the food around on her tray but could not make herself swallow it. You look terrible, Maya said gently. When was the last time you slept? I don't remember, Ji-won said honestly. This has to stop. I don't care what you say anymore. We need to tell someone. Ji-won looked at her best friend. Maya's face was full of worry and love. Ji-won wanted to say yes. She wanted to let Maya fight this battle for her. But she was so afraid. Not yet, Ji-won whispered. Please, Maya, just a little longer. How much longer? Until you collapse? Until you fail all your classes? Until you... Maya stopped herself. She looked like she wanted to cry. I hate watching you suffer like this. I know, Ji-won said. I hate it too. But I just need to survive until the end of the semester. Then I'll be out of Miss Henderson's class. I'll never have to see her again. That's still 3 more weeks, Maya pointed out. I can make it 3 more weeks. But Ji-won was not sure if that was true. That afternoon, Ji-won went to clean the classrooms like always. She started with room 201. Ms. Henderson was not there, which was a relief. Ji-won cleaned quickly and efficiently. She had become very good at this job. She knew all the tricks now. The fastest way to clean a whiteboard. The best method for getting sticky residue off desks. How to mop a floor so it dried without streaks. She was almost done with room 203 when Ms. Henderson appeared in the doorway. Come with me, Ms. Henderson said. Ji-won followed her teacher down the hall to room 214. Ms. Henderson pushed open the door. Inside the room was a complete disaster. It looked even worse than usual. There was trash everywhere. Desks were flipped over. Someone had spilled something sticky on the floor. This is your work? Ms. Henderson asked. Her voice was sharp with fake surprise. I checked this room an hour ago and it was filthy. You were supposed to clean it yesterday. Ji-won swept the floor of room 201 slowly and carefully. Every movement felt heavy. She had never felt so tired in her life, and it was only her first day of this punishment. The broom made soft scratching sounds against the floor. Outside the windows, she could see other students walking home. They were laughing and talking. They were free. She was not free. It took her 45 minutes to clean Ms. Henderson's classroom completely. She swept every corner. She wiped down all 30 desks. She cleaned the whiteboard until it was perfectly white again. She emptied the trash can and put in a new bag. When she was done, the room looked better than it had looked in months. Nobody said thank you. Ji-won moved to the next classroom. Room 202. This was Mr. Chen's math room. Mr. Chen was a kind teacher who always smiled at his students. His classroom was much cleaner than Ms. Henderson's. It did not take as long. While Ji-won was wiping the desks, Mr. Chen walked past the open door. He stopped and looked inside. He seemed surprised to see a student cleaning his room. Ji-won, what are you doing here? He asked. Ji-won kept wiping the desk. She did not look at him. I have detention, Mr. Chen. I'm cleaning the classrooms. Mr. Chen walked into the room. His face showed concern. Detention, you? I don't believe it. You're one of the best students in this school. It's okay, Ji-won said. She tried to smile, but it felt fake. It's just for 2 weeks. What did you do? Ji-won finally looked at him. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to tell him about Ms. Henderson's cruel words. She wanted to tell him how unfair this was, but she was afraid. Teachers were friends with other teachers. If she said something bad about Ms. Henderson, maybe Mr. Chen would tell her. Maybe things would get worse. I disrupted class, Ji-won said quietly. It was the lie that Ms. Henderson had written on the detention slip. I need to finish cleaning now. Mr. Chen looked like he wanted to ask more questions. But Ji-won turned back to her work. After a moment, Mr. Chen left. Ji-won felt bad for not telling him the truth. But she felt it was safer this way. She cleaned 5 more classrooms that day. Room 203, Room 204, Room 205, Room 206, Room 207. By the time she finished, it was almost 5 o'clock. Her arms hurt. Her back hurt. Her hands were red from the cleaning chemicals. She had not eaten anything since lunch, and her stomach felt empty and sick. Ji-won put all the cleaning supplies back in the closet. Then she walked slowly down the stairs and out of the school. The sun was lower in the sky now. The parking lot was almost empty. She walked to the bus stop and waited 20 minutes for the bus to come. When she finally got home, it was after 6 o'clock. Her mother was in the kitchen making dinner. The apartment smelled like rice and kimchi stew. Usually this smell made Ji-won happy. Today she felt too tired to feel anything. Ji-won, you're so late, her mother said in Korean. She looked worried. How was your study group? It was fine, Mom, Ji-won answered in Korean. We had a lot to review. Her mother looked at Ji-won's hands. Why are your hands so red? Ji-won hid her hands behind her back. Oh, we were doing a science project. Lots of washing up, another lie. Ji-won felt guilty, but she did not know what else to say. That night, Ji-won did her homework very late. She was so tired that she could barely focus. She had an English essay due the next day. She had only written 2 paragraphs. She stayed up until midnight to finish it. When she finally went to bed, she fell asleep immediately. The next morning, she woke up feeling like she had not slept at all. The pattern continued for the next few days. School during the day, cleaning after school, homework late at night, very little sleep. Ji-won felt like she was living in a fog. Everything seemed gray and difficult. By the 3rd day, other teachers started to notice her. Some of them gave her sympathetic looks when they saw her cleaning, but nobody asked questions. Nobody offered to help. Nobody told her that this punishment was too harsh. On the 5th day, Ji-won was cleaning room 203 when she heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Maya standing in the doorway. Maya's face was angry and sad at the same time. I've been looking for you everywhere, Maya said. You keep disappearing after school. Now I know why, Ji-won stood up. She was holding a dirty rag. Her uniform shirt had dust on it. She looked at Maya and suddenly felt like crying. Please don't tell anyone, Ji-won said. Her voice cracked. Please, Maya. Maya walked into the classroom and closed the door behind her. She looked at Ji-won like she was looking at a stranger. Tell me everything, Maya said firmly. And don't lie to me this time. I'm your best friend. Tell me what that woman did to you. Ji-won tried to keep her feelings inside. She tried to be strong. But she was so tired. She had been carrying this weight alone for 5 days. It was too heavy. She could not carry it anymore. She started to cry. The whole story came out. She told Maya about the question she asked. She told Maya what Ms. Henderson said in front of the whole class. She repeated the cruel words. That's what your people are good at. She told Maya about the unfair detention. She told Maya how scared she was about her future, about college, about letters of recommendation. Maya listened to everything. When Jiwon finished talking, Maya looked furious. "This is racism," Maya said loudly. "This is completely wrong. We need to report this right now. We need to go to the principal. We need to tell your parents. We need to—" "No!" Jiwon grabbed Maya's arm. "Please, Maya, I only have 2 more years at this school. If I make trouble, Ms. Henderson will destroy my chances for college. She's on the scholarship committee. She writes recommendation letters. She has power. I don't have power. I just have to survive this." "But this isn't right," Maya said. She was almost crying too now. "You shouldn't have to survive this. This shouldn't be happening at all." "I know," Jiwon said quietly, "but it is happening. And I need to get through it the best way I can." Maya looked at her best friend. She could see how tired Jiwon was. She could see the red marks on her hands. She could see the fear in Jiwon's eyes. Maya wanted to fight for her friend. She wanted to march into the principal's office and tell everyone what was happening. But she also understood Jiwon's fear. "Okay," Maya finally said. "I won't tell anyone. But you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me that if things get worse, you'll let me help you. Promise me you won't keep suffering alone." Jiwon nodded. "I promise," Maya hugged her. It was the first time Jiwon had felt any comfort since this whole nightmare started. They stood there in the empty classroom for a long moment. Then Maya let go. "I have to finish cleaning," Jiwon said. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "Ms. Henderson checks my work. If it's not perfect, I have to do it again." Maya wanted to stay and help, but Jiwon said no. If Ms. Henderson found out that someone was helping, she might add more time to the punishment. So Maya left, and Jiwon went back to work. By the end of the first week, Jiwon had established a routine. She knew exactly how long each classroom took to clean. She knew which rooms were dirtier and which rooms were easier. She brought her own cleaning gloves from home to protect her hands better. She even started bringing snacks to eat while she worked so she would not be so hungry. But something strange started to happen in the second week. Jiwon was cleaning room 214 on Monday afternoon. She had cleaned this room on Friday, and it had been spotless when she left. But when she entered it on Monday, it was a mess. There was mud on the floor. Papers were scattered everywhere. Someone had drawn on the whiteboard. The trash can was tipped over. Jiwon stood in the doorway and stared. This did not make sense. Room 214 was Ms. Patterson's English class. Ms. Patterson was organized and neat. Her room was never this messy. Jiwon cleaned the room anyway. It took her twice as long as usual. By the time she finished, she was exhausted and frustrated. The next day, Jiwon cleaned room 209. But when she went to check room 214 again before going home, she found it messy again. More mud, more papers on the floor, more drawings on the board. Someone was making this room dirty on purpose. Jiwon felt anger rise in her chest. This was not fair. She was working so hard to clean these rooms properly, and someone was undoing her work. She had a strong feeling that she knew who was doing it. On Wednesday, Jiwon decided to take pictures. She took out her phone and photographed room 214 after she cleaned it. She wrote down the time, 4:25 p.m. The room was perfect. She could prove it. The next day, she checked room 214 again. It was messy. She took more pictures. Then she showed them to Maya. "Look at this," Jiwon said. She showed Maya the before and after photos. "Someone is doing this on purpose." Maya's eyes got wide. "You think it's Ms. Henderson? Who else would it be?" "This is sick," Maya said. "She's not just punishing you. She's torturing you. This has to stop, Jiwon." But Jiwon shook her head. "I'm going to keep documenting it. I'm going to take pictures every day. I don't know why I'm doing this, but something tells me I need to keep records." She did not know then how important those pictures would become. By the end of the second week, Jiwon's grades started to slip. She was so tired that she fell asleep during her chemistry test. She woke up with 15 minutes left and rushed through the rest of the questions. When she got the test back, she saw a big C- written in red at the top. Jiwon stared at that grade for a long time. She had never gotten a C in her life. Never, not even once. She put the test in her folder and did not show her parents. Jiwon Park sat in the third row of her history class, her notebook open and her pen ready. She loved learning about American history. Every lesson felt important to her because her parents had worked so hard to bring their family to this country. They wanted a better life for her, and Ji-won wanted to make them proud. The morning sun came through the tall windows of Lincoln High School. It was a regular Thursday in October. Ji-won had already finished her math homework during lunch and helped two younger students with their English essays. She was tired but happy. Helping others made her feel good. Ms. Henderson stood at the front of the classroom. She was a history teacher in her 50s with short gray hair and glasses that sat low on her nose. She had been teaching at Lincoln High for 25 years. Some students liked her. Many students feared her. Ji-won tried to stay quiet in her class and just do her work. Today, Ms. Henderson was talking about immigration to America in the early 1900s. She described how people came from Europe looking for jobs and freedom. She showed pictures of families arriving at Ellis Island with their bags and tired faces. Ji-won raised her hand. She wanted to ask about immigrants from Asia during that same time period. Her grandmother had told her stories about how difficult it was for Asian families to come to America back then. There were unfair laws that stopped them. Ji-won thought this was an important part of the story that Ms. Henderson had not mentioned. Ms. Henderson looked at Ji-won. Her expression was not friendly. She sighed like she was annoyed. Several other students had their hands up too, but Ms. Henderson pointed at Ji-won. "Yes, what is it?" Ms. Henderson asked. Her voice was cold. Ji-won spoke clearly but politely. "I wanted to ask about Asian immigration during that time. Were there different rules for people coming from Asia?" It was a good question. Ji-won had read about the Chinese Exclusion Act in the library. She knew that the laws were not the same for everyone. She thought Ms. Henderson would appreciate a student who did extra reading. She was wrong. Ms. Henderson's face changed. Her eyes became narrow and mean. She put down the book she was holding and walked closer to Ji-won's desk. The classroom became very quiet. Everyone could feel that something bad was about to happen. "Maybe you should focus on cleaning desks instead of answering questions," Ms. Henderson said loudly. Her voice filled the whole room. "That's what your people are good at, isn't it?" Ji-won felt like someone had hit her in the stomach. She could not breathe for a moment. Her face became very hot. She felt her hands start to shake. Around her, some students gasped. Others looked down at their desks quickly. A few students looked at Ji-won with sad eyes, but nobody said anything. Maya Johnson, Ji-won's best friend who sat 2 rows behind her, made a small, angry sound. Ji-won could hear Maya moving in her seat like she wanted to stand up and say something, but Ms. Henderson turned and gave Maya a warning look. Maya stayed in her seat. Ji-won did not cry. She would not let Ms. Henderson see her cry. Instead, she looked down at her notebook. Her vision was blurry, but she kept her eyes open. She could see her own handwriting on the page. The notes she had taken so carefully. She had written the date at the top like always. October 17th. She would remember this day forever. Ms. Henderson went back to the front of the classroom. She continued teaching like nothing had happened. She talked about immigration from Ireland and Italy. She did not mention Asia again. She did not look at Ji-won again. The rest of the class felt like it lasted forever. Ji-won did not raise her hand again. She did not write any more notes. She just sat there feeling small and ashamed. She knew she had done nothing wrong. Her question was good. Her question was smart. But Ms. Henderson had made her feel like she was worth nothing. When the bell finally rang, all the students started to pack their bags quickly. Everyone wanted to leave. Some students looked at Ji-won as they walked past her desk. They looked sorry for her, but they did not stop to talk. They were afraid. Ji-won started to put her books in her bag. Her hands were still shaking. She wanted to run out of the classroom and never come back. But before she could leave, she heard Ms. Henderson's voice. "Ji-won Park, come to my desk now." Ji-won's heart beat very fast. She walked slowly to the front of the room. Maya waited by the door watching. Ms. Henderson sat behind her desk and looked up at Ji-won. She did not look sorry. She did not look guilty. She looked pleased with herself. "You disrupted my class today," Ms. Henderson said. She wrote something on a pink paper. "It was a detention slip. You were disrespectful and you interrupted my lesson." "But I just asked a question," Ji-won said quietly. Her voice was shaking now too. I raised my hand and waited to be called on. "Don't talk back to me," Ms. Henderson said sharply. She finished writing and held out the pink paper. "You have detention for 2 weeks. After school." Starting today, Ji-won took the paper. She looked at what Ms. Henderson had written. The words made her feel sick. "You will clean all the classrooms on the second floor," Ms. Henderson said. "Every day after school until 4:30. All of them. Sweep the floors. Wipe the desks. Clean the boards. Empty the trash. If you miss even one day, you will start the 2 weeks over again." Ji-won wanted to scream. She wanted to tell Ms. Henderson that this was not fair. She wanted to go to the principal. She wanted to call her parents. But she thought about her future. Ms. Henderson was on the scholarship committee. She wrote letters of recommendation for students who wanted to go to college. If Ji-won made her more angry, Ms. Henderson could ruin everything. "Do you understand?" Ms. Henderson asked. "Yes," Ji-won whispered. "Yes what?" "Yes, Ms. Henderson." "Good. You start today. 3:30, don't be late." Ji-won walked out of the classroom. Maya was still waiting in the hallway. She looked furious. "What did that horrible woman say to you?" Maya asked. "I have detention," Ji-won said. She showed Maya the pink slip. 2 weeks. "I have to clean classrooms. That's crazy. You didn't do anything wrong." "We need to tell someone. We need to go to the principal right now." Ji-won shook her head. She felt very tired suddenly. "No, it will only make things worse. I just need to get through this." "But Ji-won, please Maya, just leave it alone. I'll be okay." Maya looked like she wanted to argue more, but she stopped. She knew how hard Ji-won worked for her grades. She knew how much Ji-won needed good recommendations for college. She understood why Ji-won was scared. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. Ji-won could not focus in her other classes. She kept thinking about what Ms. Henderson had said. "That's what your people are good at." The words played over and over in her head. They made her feel angry and hurt and ashamed all at the same time. Her mother worked as a seamstress in a factory and cleaned houses on weekends. Her father delivered packages for 12 hours a day. They worked so hard. There was nothing shameful about their work. They were honest and they were proud. But Ms. Henderson had used their work like a weapon. She had used it to hurt Ji-won. When the final bell rang at 3 o'clock, most students rushed out of the building. They were happy to go home or meet their friends. Ji-won walked slowly to her locker. She put away the books she did not need and took out her phone. She sent a text message to her mother in Korean. "I have to stay after school for a study group. I will be home late. Don't worry about me, it was a lie." Ji-won never lied to her parents. But she could not tell them the truth. Not yet, maybe not ever. They had enough to worry about. Ji-won walked to the supply closet near the second-floor bathrooms. Inside, she found a broom, a mop, a bucket, cleaning spray, and paper towels. She gathered everything in her arms. The cleaning supplies smelled strong. They made her eyes water a little. She walked to the first classroom. Room 201. It was Ms. Henderson's classroom. Of course it was. Ji-won pushed open the door and looked inside. The room was messy. Papers were on the floor. The trash can was overflowing. The desks were covered in pencil marks and dust. Ji-won set down her supplies. She looked at her hands. These were the hands that wrote essays. These were the hands that solved math problems. These were the hands that would one day become a lawyer's hands. Her dream was to fight for people's rights, to stand up against injustice in courtrooms, but today these hands would push a broom. Ji-won took a deep breath. She picked up the broom and started to sweep.